Are you looking to get started with foundation paper piecing? This technique is simple, easy to understand, and the best part is you don't have to spend a lot of time cutting out all your pieces before you get to the fun part of sewing. This makes it a super easy technique to piece your projects, even if you don't have a lot of sewing experience. Before you begin, there are a few supplies you'll need. The first is the foundation paper piecing pattern itself. Foundation paper piecing patterns will be marked as such and will usually either come with the printed paper pieces or include a template that can be printed on regular paper from your own printer. We've included a link to this free printable block pattern in the description box. Apart from the more general sewing supplies most sewers will have lying around, such as rotary cutters, pins, and fabric scissors, you will also need an add-a-quarter ruler. These rulers are designed to add an extra 1/4 inch to a measured line to account for the seam allowance. They come in a few different lengths, but this 18-inch size ruler is a good length to fit most pattern pieces. Cut out your block pattern roughly 1/8 away from the outermost line. With each block, fold along the lines separating each smaller individual piece in the block. These creases will create a helpful guideline on how large you should cut your fabric. Each pattern printed on a pattern piece indicates a fabric color. Some patterns will include a fabric guide with suggested colors showing what printed pattern should be with which fabric color. However, if you want to customize your own fabric colors, you can cut out a small square of each fabric and paste it over top. This makes it a lot easier to plan the colors in your project. Begin with the first block in your pattern. In this case, block A. I've chosen this pink colored fabric for the first piece of my block, piece A1. Cut the fabric at least 1/2 inch larger on each edge. I strongly recommend being safe and cutting a larger piece than you need, rather than trying to get away with a smaller piece. It will save you a lot of headaches, and you will waste less fabric than if you accidentally cut too closely. Using your add-a-quarter ruler and a rotary blade, trim along the folded lines of the piece following the creased edges. You should be left with a piece of fabric sticking 1/4 inch out from the piece. Keep the pin in place. Prepare piece A2 and place it right sides together with piece A1. Find the correct edges on the pieces that will need to be sewn together and pin them right sides together. I strongly recommend using a finer weight thread to piece. I'll be using this 80 weight cottonized polyester called Deco Bob. It's very strong, but incredibly thin, and it can be used in the top and the bobbin of the machine. Because the thread doesn't take up as much space in the fabric, your piecing will lay visibly flatter. It makes a huge difference in foundation paper piecing, especially when you have smaller pieces or a lot of piecing in one area. If you're using this thread, I recommend decreasing your stitch length to 1.8. It will make it easier to tear the paper out later and ensure your piecing is more secure. Press each seam after you sew it. You'll continue these same steps for each piece, cutting the fabric to size and shape, pinning, sewing, trimming with the add-a-quarter ruler until each piece is complete. I want to mention a step you'll need to take if your fabric has a pattern that needs to travel in a certain direction. You'll need to pin your piece more carefully. Refer to the direction the piece will be facing on your layout guide and place your paper piece to the wrong side of the fabric. You will need to pay attention to where the seam is once you sew the pieces together and open it up, as the fabric will rotate on that seam. Always keep in mind that you'll need to do it in order so that you're not ending up with pieces jutting out in the way so that another piece can't be sewn on in a straight line. So, for example, to finish assembling this block, we'll want to sew together pieces A and B first, then attach pieces C and D, and finally pieces F and E. Sewing pieces F and E first would make it impossible to attach pieces C and D. Lining up your final pattern pieces can be difficult. Here's a trick to make sure everything lines up perfectly. Take a pin and insert it in the corner of a pattern that needs to line up with a specific part on the other piece. Do this to the same matching corner on the other end of the pattern, if there is one. Now properly pin the pieces together with these corners held in place. Your pieces will match up perfectly every time. Like before, sew the pieces together following the indicated line. Once your block is fully assembled, you can trim along the outermost line with a regular ruler to finish your block. These are just some techniques to make your paper piecing project turn out beautifully every time. Let us know in the comment section below your experience with paper piecing, or if you have a piecing tip of your own to share. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you like this video, or hit subscribe for more great tips and tutorials. We'll see you all next time.